My name is Erica Marie Morris, and you are listening to the Candle Business Podcast, where we talk all things about starting, running, and growing a successful candle business. From marketing to mental health, I cover a wide range of real-life topics that involve the crazy and wonderful ups and downs that is being a small business owner. And today we are talking about making money. I want to give you some ideas, different places, especially if you are new to the business realm and you're like, how do I even go from making candles in my kitchen to actually selling it? Who am I selling it to? Where do I sell it? How do I go about doing this? And today's topic and podcast episode is basically just giving you some ideas, giving you some knowledge and understanding of how this works and different ways that you can go about actually making money with your candles. And if you are somebody who is kind of on the cusp of starting your candle business, or you're thinking about starting it, or you're just about to launch, I do have a candle business launch checklist that's going to walk you through and give you some things to think about as you are getting started in this process. So if you go to ericamariemorris.com/checklist, you can download my free checklist, and then you'll also get on my email list as well. And I just send out a bunch of helpful information when I do. It's like once or twice a month that I send it out. But that is just going to help you out as you are getting started. So let's talk about making money. So I have some notes here, and just like my last episode, I really I do a lot better when I don't have like super structured notes. I feel like I get a little robotic in a way sometimes, at least in my head, and I'm not as creative when I'm talking. So I just want to share my experiences of things that I've done, different ways that I've sold my candles, and just to give you a little bit more knowledge. So when it comes to selling your handmade candles, once you have gotten to the point where you've gone through the testing, you're ready to get started with selling your candles, you may be wondering where is the best place to sell your candles. And personally, I actually feel like selling locally in your local area is the best way to start. It's better than getting started selling online. It's not a bad thing to get started selling online. That's what I did, and that's what a lot of people do. But I feel like what happens is that people get so caught up in, but there's way more people that can buy your candles online than there are around you, but you are closer in proximity to the people around you. So the first place that you can sell your handmade candles is at local events. So local markets, craft fairs, anything around you that has some kind of event with vendors. And the way that you can go about finding this is look up on Instagram. So you can go on Instagram and you can look up and see what local events are in your area. So you can search hashtags like events in, and then put your city, maybe type in your city and just spend some time looking. You can also look on Google, you can look on Facebook, and just try to get familiar with the events that happen in your city. You can even go onto a local Facebook group and say, hey, I'm looking to be a vendor. What kind of events are around here? Like, does anybody know of any kind of events? You know, I make candles, I want to sell them. Like, introduce yourself to the community. It's a great idea because what I've learned is more and more nowadays, people are wanting to support small local businesses, which is fantastic because I think a lot of people are sick of just the big corporations that are kind of taking over everything. And the small businesses are really just like such a core value in our society. And it's so important for us to continue supporting them. So people want to know who the local baker is, who the local, candle maker is. Like, people want to know these things because it's just great to build up the small businesses around us. So introduce yourself, learn what kind of events are in your area, and try to figure out if you can figure out who is hosting these events. So in our area, we have a couple different kind of event planning companies that put on events with the city. So they have to make a deal with the city and be able to get permits for different locations. So they go through all the marketing and all of that. And then you pay a booth fee in order to be a vendor at their event that they are doing the marketing for and bringing the traffic. So we will get to Etsy in just a moment, but it's kind of similar to Etsy if you look at it from the perspective of you are having to have some of your profits taken away from you in order to have traffic be brought to you. So instead of having to, I don't know, stand on the corner with a table and your candles on there and then just hoping that customers come to you, these events are just a bunch of different, usually local handmade sellers of some kind, all getting together, and it's bringing in the traffic of your local community. So you have that traffic being brought to you versus you having to find that traffic. And that is huge. And that's something that a lot of people, I think, overlook when there's marketplaces. So you can think about a local event as kind of like a local marketplace. You are renting a spot there to put your brand and put your product in front of a certain audience, which in this case would be the members of your community. And in exchange, you are having to give up some of your profits. So at a local event, you have to pay a booth fee. And this varies based on the kind of event, where you live, how long it is it a weekend event? I mean, I've seen from free all the way to thousands of dollars. So it really just depends. Around here, it's usually between 100 and 175 depending on the event and also the time of year. When it's the holiday season, it usually will be a lot more expensive because people know that's the time that people are actually, going out and shopping. And usually it can be a little bit more competitive with those spaces. But when you are trying to get into these local events, you do want to make sure that you have a seller's permit, because I would say that the majority of them require a seller's permit. And this is just you can think about it, I think it's also called like a resale license. It's so that you're able to collect sales tax and then remit it to your state. I think that in most states, this is free that you can get on your state's website, but just know that a lot of these markets will require a seller's permit at the very least. And sometimes some of them will also require business licenses and also business insurance, which you should have those definitely already. But just so you know, these three things a lot of events will ask you for before you actually become a vendor. I will stand by that. I think this is the best way to get started when selling your candles. You get to meet your potential customers in person. You get to kind of get over that fear of, oh my gosh, are people actually going to buy my candles? And you can see how they're interacting. You can gain that feedback right away on the sense that people seem interested in, maybe the sense that people are not so interested in, and you can adjust things accordingly and really get to interact and meet and have conversations about your products that you have spent so much time creating. And that's something that I always love doing local events, is sharing the information, talking about the product, and seeing how people were interacting and seeing what kind of scents people liked and how they like the look of the candles and all that kind of stuff. It really just gives you a different perspective, and it's just such a different feeling than having somebody you don't know that doesn't have a face purchase from you from an online shop, which that's great too, don't get me wrong, but it's just way different in person and it's more attainable. It's easier to get started at local markets and local events than it is having consistent sales and getting started on an online platform. But that is somewhere that you can sell your candles and make money. And it is, I would say, probably something that most new businesses get started with. I would say that probably most all new businesses have some sort of online presence of some kind, whether that's just a website, Etsy shop, or just like Instagram or Facebook page or whatever it is. But you want to be able to have something. I would recommend to have at least an Instagram and an Etsy shop or a Shopify. I know some of you started on both. I got started on Etsy, and then a year in, I decided to switch over to my own website. You can get started on your own website, and then in the future get an Etsy shop. There really is no right or wrong. Both of these platforms you will have to drive your own traffic. Etsy has a little bit more likelihood of, actually a lot more likelihood of somebody that you don't know and didn't bring to your shop find you and make a purchase. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to do any marketing yourself or put any effort into it. There's so much that you need to focus on when it comes to selling online. But there's Etsy, there's Amazon Handmade, there's your own website through Shopify. Shopify or Wix or Squarespace or anything where you are designing your own website with your own domain. So you can purchase a domain and have it connected to your website. So if you're not familiar with how to create a website or how it all works, basically what you're doing is you are customizing a template that was already designed for you. So you don't have to learn coding. Like none of this is something that you have to learn from scratch. It's all basically just a template, and then you're able to add your photos and change the text and change different things around that you want to do. And the reason why I like Shopify so much is because they have apps and different things that you can really customize it. They have tons of different themes, and I've just always had a really good experience with them, and I've always used them for a long time, and I used them before in the past during my other crazy business ventures that didn't work out, but I still always like Shopify regardless. But the main thing when it comes to selling your candles online is it's a lot of work that goes into trying to make your products look appealing. You need to really try to figure out what is your ideal buyer going to want. You need to invest in either photo equipment and take pictures yourself, or invest into a photographer. You need to also know how to write descriptions, make sure that your website looks pleasant and it's easy for the person on the other end, so your potential customer, that it's a good and easy user experience. You know, it's not confusing. They can't find your products. They're just kind of confused with the layout of everything. You want it to kind of flow and work really well and not have any kind of resistance with the customer, because you don't want to have anything that's going to push the customer away. You want to try to entice the customer as much as possible, specifically because we sell candles and people can't smell it through the screen. We wish that they could. I wish there was an invention like that, but there's not. So we have to do the best we can when it comes to describing and showing our product, adding videos, showing pictures, giving descriptions and measurements and what does it smell like, and doing the best you can with every single listing that you have, and being able to showcase your product in the best way to people that can't hold or smell your candles before they purchase, because there are a lot of people out there that will not make a purchase unless they can smell it. And that's another benefit of doing local markets, is that people are able to actually walk up and smell the product, and that usually will kind of entice them enough to make a purchase, to where the product itself is selling itself more at local markets than you trying to persuade them as much. Sometimes, we still try to persuade, and there's different times and different ways of doing that. But when it comes to selling online, it's just a whole different way about going about it. And that's why photos and descriptions are such a huge part of it. Gone are the days of just taking a picture of your product sitting there and posting it online and then just expecting it to sell. It's not going to. And there's so much that goes into it. Doing keyword research and knowing what kind of phrases and words that you need to associate with your scent and with your product, that's going to basically, you're trying to attract whoever is the target buyer of your product. And this really goes for whether it's your own website like Shopify or Wix or wherever you are hosting it, or Etsy, which is, again, another popular marketplace for handmade items. So Etsy is kind of like eBay in a sense, of where it's a marketplace where there's different sellers, and you go on there and there's tons of buyers looking for things, but you are kind of in a sea of competition on Etsy versus your own website. It's just you. So there's the two differences there. But when it comes to Etsy, you still have to put in a lot of work when it comes to the photography. If you want to add video, the description, you want to make sure that the customer knows what they're getting. But these are very common and very great things to have for your business. And you learn a lot throughout the process of what you want to do. I mean, I've changed my website so many times, and I'm already wanting to change it again. Like, it seems like no matter what I do and no matter how I change it, it's not quite exactly how I want it to be. Like, I want my website to look like the most high-end professional looking website, even though I'm the only one doing it myself. So you need to have realistic goals when it comes to you doing your own website, and having a theme like Shopify themes and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really helpful. But what I found is that when I'm looking at the Shopify theme options, and there's something called a demo store, so that you are able to actually see the website theme before you purchase it. And what I found is that the demo themes always looked beautiful. And then I would get the template, and then it would just look like gray and blank. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. It's like being handed a giant sheet of paper with some crayons and being told you can do whatever you want with it. And it's just so overwhelming. You're like, I don't even know where to start. And that is definitely something that's my next task with the Ultimate Candle Business Guide. That is going to be the next course in that. So I want to do a whole course on creating a Shopify store for your candle business, and just breaking it down and making it a lot more simple and not so overwhelming, and just giving you kind of step by step what to do to at least get a website up that looks pleasant and looks nice, and that's going to be user friendly for the person shopping on your website. So really excited about that. I just finished the first course that I did, that's how to get your first sale. So I'm really excited about that. But just thinking about different things I can add. It's just kind of an ongoing project I'm just enjoying. But the next thing that you can do when it comes to selling your candles, and something to think about, this is kind of like a mix between wholesale and retail. And I know we haven't talked about wholesale yet. I'll get into that in a moment. But I'm just going to play off of a little bit more with retail, so direct to consumer, but in a slightly different way. So you can do bulk retail orders. So think about wedding favors, baby shower gifts, corporate gifting, things like that, things that you can offer a larger amount, where basically they are purchasing, the consumer is purchasing a larger amount of items from you, but think about giving them a discount for purchasing a certain amount. So for instance, we have these little 1.5 ounce gold tins that we typically only offer on our wholesale website, but we also offer it as event, like bulk event for the actual consumer. I hope this is making sense. But basically, it's kind of in the middle of retail and wholesale, because you're selling it to somebody who is not a business owner. They're not a retail shop. They're not going to be reselling it. They're going to be using it for their event. But you want to give them a little bit of a discount because they're ordering so many. So if you have small, let's say 4-ounce candles, and they're wanting to purchase 100 of them for their wedding gifts, you may want to give them, I don't know, 15, 20% off, whatever it is. Like if you look at your numbers and think about how you want to offer things, let's say they purchase 50 of them and you give 10%, and they purchase 100 of them and you give 15% off, whatever it is. You have kind of these stages of however many people purchase, they get a certain percentage off their order. This is something that you can offer to encourage the sales of bulk ordering, and that people are able to get discounts on their larger orders so that they can utilize your candle making services for their events. I love thinking about the candle business in terms of offering event items, souvenirs, gifts, whatever it is. Corporate gifting is really cool. We have a lot of corporate gifting on Fair, actually. And Fair is a part of Wholesale, which again, I will talk about in just a moment. But that's just something that you can think about offering, and think about what kind of candles and sizes and scents that you would want to offer to be able to do event candles and offer larger quantities of candles sold at once to the consumer, but give the incentive for them to want to purchase from you because you're giving a discount based on how many they're ordering. And then just to piggyback off of that real fast before I move on to wholesale, think about custom and personalized orders. Think about products that you can customize, your candle label, and offering this as a service, not only to events, so you can combine those together, do the bulk event discounted price with a customized option, which could either be a flat fee that you are adding on, or it could be a dollar amount added on to each product. And this will increase your average order value. So basically just increase the total cost that the customer is purchasing because you were able to offer a customized option. But customization, personalization, these are fantastic options for us small handmade candle business owners because we have this luxury to be able to do that. I highly recommend that if you don't know how to print out your own candle labels at home, that you learn and invest into that if a customized option is something that you are wanting to offer your customers, because this is something that people will utilize for weddings, for corporate gifting, for baby showers. We've done funerals before. Like, these are things that people are wanting to customize, and it creates that special memory and that special touch to their order, and something that you are able to make special just for them. They can't get it anywhere else. And by working with you on that, it just gives that more incentive to work with you for their needs because you are able to customize it just for them. And then the last way that I wanted to talk about in terms of making money on your candles is selling them wholesale. So this is completely separate from everything that we've talked about. All of those we're selling direct to consumer. Now we're talking about selling to another business. So selling B2B, so business to business sales. And this is such a great structure because there are so many parties involved in this, and we're trying to be beneficial to everybody involved. And what happens is the retailer or boutique owner or hair salon owner or whoever it is, whatever person that is wanting to resell your candles, they are going to be getting your retail candles at 50% off. So then they're able to sell your candles at retail price and make a profit. So you make a profit, they make a profit, and then in exchange, you are being able to distribute your candles across the country, sometimes in another country, places that you may not have ended up, and people who may have not even heard from you will find you in these little small businesses across the country. So it's really amazing. It's kind of, we're a small business, they're a small business, and we're both making money on the transaction, and it's going to end up in the hands of a consumer who's going to love your product and then want to purchase more. So they will go back to that retailer and order more, who will then order more from you. Now, I know this can be kind of like, why would I ever sell my products at 50% off? But this is just how wholesale works. This is how this is how it's actually beneficial. If you only sold your products at 20% off for retailers, it would not be even worth their time to resell your candles and only make such a small fraction of a percentage. Also, please note that the buyer always pays shipping. So I'm sure we're on Fair, which is a wholesale platform, and this is probably, I think, the biggest B2B wholesale platform out there. And it just connects retailers and wholesalers and lets the transaction be super easy. And we've gotten our products in so many different places across the US. It's pretty amazing. You can see they actually have an area on our Fair account to where we can see every location of a retailer who has purchased from us. And we've gotten more orders from people who have found us at different retail locations who either wasn't able to find the candles at the place again for whatever amount of reasons, or whatever it was, they were looking for a specific scent and reached out to us. And it's really cool to be able to distribute your product and be able to, spread the word of your brand, be able to spread your brand to different places that you never would have before. So I really love wholesale, but it only makes sense if your pricing makes sense, if you have the margin for it. And margin is basically how much your profit margin is. So if it costs you $7 to make your candle and you sell it for $15, that would not give you any margin to be able to do wholesale, because then 15 divided by 2 is what, $7.50? So that would not give you any profit margin at all if it costs you $7 to make your candle. So in order to do wholesale and to profit with wholesale, you have to still make sure that you have a good profit margin available in order to do that. But I think it's still a great option. You can make a lot of money. We've done really well on Faire. We've done well on our Shopify. We've done well at local events. It really just depends. Everybody is going to be so different based on how you have your business set up and what you are looking to do with your business, what is going to make the most sense for you in your life, with the time that you have, with what's available to you, with what makes the most sense, who your target market is. There's so many different things that will come into play on what you should be focused on. But what I will say before I wrap up today's episode is that I don't want you to be overwhelmed with having to do all of this at once. I want you to pick one thing that makes the most sense for you and really focus on doing that, and then start to branch out. So for instance, I really focused on Etsy and Shopify at first, and then we did local events, and now we're doing wholesale. And now I feel comfortable with all three of them. Oh, and also personalization and customization. I started doing that, I think it was on Etsy or Shopify. I can't remember. Within the first year or so, I had started doing custom labels. And then, you just expand from there and you get more comfortable with it. So, but I just wanted to give you just kind of a list, ideas, things for you to be thinking about in terms of making money with selling your handmade candles. It's always nice to kind of get a refresher and get kind of inspired to get started on something and know the different avenues that you can take and know that it's possible. And there's so much opportunity out there for selling candles. You really just have to have your eye focused on it and take action and get started. But with that, I'm going to end today's podcast episode right now because my son is awake, so I have to go be with him. But I will see you in the next one.